I will share my screen, and I will share some slides to support with this presentation. Then we will do a short meditation around 10 minutes, and then we can go on to the question and answers part. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Share. And okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes, okay, very good. So, very good. So I prepared this presentation. I'm very excited to be here because this presentation is around shadow work in the context of Eastern spirituality. I don't know if Eastern spirituality for you sounds like something unclear, or what do you refer to? For us being in, I'm from Europe, Spain, so for us in the West, Eastern spirituality is something, a very clear concept, but I don't know for you, maybe because you are there in India, it is not so clear for you to know, but I will explain later what I mean with this. So, okay. First of all, I am very grateful to be here. I am very excited, and this gives me the opportunity to speak about shadow work with you who you are very aware of Eastern spirituality, of the principles. It is your heritage, so you know a lot of things already, which is usually not the people I know when I speak about shadow work. So for me, this gives me the opportunity to start at a different point than I would start with people from here. So thank you very much. This is a very good opportunity for me, and I'm really happy to be doing this. Okay, so my goals for this presentation, what I would like you to have understood once we leave this presentation is how shadow work can help you in your spiritual liberation journey. That is one part. What is your shadow, and what is shadow work? And how your ego entangles you in pain and sabotages shadow work. There is a lot of talk about ego and what it is, and so I'm sure that you are already familiar with this concept, and that the ego creates a lot of suffering. So we will also touch this point, which is very important. Who am I? Well, I consider myself someone who has walked quite a long path with shadow work. And so I am confident about showing others where the path is, how the journey is. And of course, I am a certified coach on shadow work, and in the context of Eastern spirituality. So to tell a bit about my story, because in the world of coaching and therapists, many times you see that the person has a past that is very relevant to what they are doing. Right. So in my case, let's say I didn't have a very good start in life, like many people. So I lived in a lot of emotional pain and suffering for a lot of years. always wondering there must be a better way to live, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to stop the pain or what to do, who to turn to. And so I tried along the years, I reached out and I tried different things. And these were very good things, but somehow the results were not permanent. I felt like in a hamster wheel, or it was a cycle. I would feel better after therapy and then I would go back to the same starting point. I was feeling this way for many years. And then I kept looking for answers. I kept looking for different alternatives. And then I found shadow work through one of my teachers. And I found also spirituality, and that combined has provided me results that I didn't get in the past. And since then, I haven't stopped because all this brings a lot of meaning to my life. So where I am now is I feel my life has meaning. I no longer feel lost. And for me, this is a very great achievement, right? That is what I have been looking for many, many years. And I take advantage of my difficulties in life to pursue my spiritual freedom. And that is one way of summarizing what shadow work is, right? And what I keep learning as I go. So you learn, we all learn as we go, and we keep having realizations and new understandings, right? Throughout all our life. This is not something that you reach a point and then that's it. There is nothing else to learn, right? So what we will cover in this presentation is three main topics. The first one is a spiritual journey is incomplete without shadow work. The second one is what shadow work and what is your shadow work and where it comes from. And the third topic, what the shadow work process looks like. So starting with the first topic, our spiritual journey is incomplete without shadow work. So according to what I call Eastern spirituality, right? What is your ultimate goal as a human being according to Eastern spirituality? And here is where I mention what I'm familiar with and what I refer to with Eastern spirituality, right? I'm referring to all the teachings in the Upanishads, especially the Bhagavad Gita, all the teachings of yoga, Buddhism, and there is more, but this is what I'm most familiar with. And all these, the Upanishads, yoga, Buddhism, all have one thing in common, which is that our goal as human beings is to reach spiritual liberation and realize the truth, right? So through all these teachings, we know that the way we perceive the world, what we perceive with our senses, it is not the ultimate reality, right? This Maya that we perceive with our senses, which is very beautiful and very rich, and it is something to engage in and to live, is something that we perceive with our senses, but there is a truth that transcends everything that we see, right? So what we see is needed for us to be able to interact with one another, to be able to live in this material life. But we know that beyond that, there is another reality that we cannot see, but it is there. And everything that we see emerges from this ultimate reality, right? So in order to realize the truth, you have to carry out a journey of spiritual liberation and liberate yourself from all these very convincing messages that we get by what we perceive with our senses, right? Because the material reality is very convincing, is very solid for us. So to reach a spiritual liberation, one of the things that you have to do is free yourself from karma, right? During our lifetime, we acquire a lot of karma, and even the spirituality says that we come to this world already with a baggage of karma, right? And there is some karma that it is needed because it makes us survive in this world. But let's say that there is a lot of other karma that we incorporate during our lifetime that is limiting us. It is limiting us, and it is making us live in the misunderstanding that everything we see and we perceive is everything there is in the world, right? And this is very convincing because we live 24 hours in this world. Well, 24 hours, and then you discount the hours that we sleep. But when we're not sleeping, we're living all our time in the perception of our senses. So this is very, very convincing. And liberating yourself from that is one way of achieving spiritual liberation. It is something needed to achieve this spiritual liberation. So karma, as I'm sure that you know, the word means action, right? And the idea is that every action has a consequence. Every action we take, and an action is not only something physical that we do, but a thought is also an action. And every action has a consequence. So by this law, you can be sure that whatever you get in life is the result of your actions. A great percentage of the reason why you get the things you get in your life depend on you, right? Of course, we cannot control everything in our surrounding, and so there are things that we're not be able to control. But even this being the case, this principle, by this principle, you can be sure that you have a very, very big influence, and the majority of the influence of what you get in life, right? So by each of us observing what our lives look like, what we get in our lives, we can contemplate on the results of our actions. So given this principle, it is very important to be mindful about your actions, right? Karma can also be seen as conditioning. It's also another way of seeing it, right? Because the actions that we take are the result of our conditioning, of the conditioning that we have learned throughout our whole life, right? And there is no free will until you don't liberate yourself from that conditioning. We have a false sense of free will, that we take decisions and we decide what to do in our lives, and we decide how to behave, and we decide what actions to take. But the reality And this is not only what all these scriptures teach us, but science has already, neuroscience has already confirmed and demonstrated this, that there is no free will because all our actions are conditioned by what we hold in our minds, by our beliefs, by our expectations, by what we think is possible and is not possible. So we live with this false sense of free will, but the reality is that we have very little free will until we don't carry out this journey of liberation. And the liberation starts with awareness, starts with becoming aware that I am not free. So one of the fundamental ways to liberate karma, this kind of karma that limits us and keeps us believing and buying into a reality that is not the ultimate reality, is shadow work, right? And liberate us from a lot of conditioning that we have acquired throughout our lives, and that creates us a lot of pain. So, yes, the scope of this presentation is individual karma, and this is a karma conditioning shadow that is created as a result of your personal experience. So when we come to this life, right, that we are newborns, we are completely dependent on our parents, on our caregivers, and they give us, even if they give us the best surrounding and the best start in life, right? We go through experiences in our life that create this karma. So this is the scope of this presentation, because then there is also a collective karma, which is the result of us as a society, us as humankind, us as humanity, right? But that is something different to what I will be speaking about here. So the second topic is, what is your shadow and where it comes from? How is karma created, right? So when we're children, as a child, you learn who you are through all the experiences that you have with your family, with the people in your neighborhood, at school. You learn who you are, right? And you learn where you fit in the world, right? You have experiences, and then other people reflect back to you things about yourself, and then you're learning this, right? If you're the kind of person that makes jokes and people laugh at you, you start learning, right, who you are. I am the person who makes jokes. And you learn, of course, how you relate with others during this during our life, and what you can expect from life, right? So we have all these learnings. We get all these learnings from our childhood, and this is a lot of, a lot of expectations that we create ourselves, about life, about how life works, about what I can expect from the world. And some of them, they are not very positive, right? And when we don't have positive experiences, when we have experiences as children that are very, very harsh, very tough, right? That impact us very much. This means that, in a sense, our core needs have not been met. So, for instance, you may have had experiences that have made you felt powerless, or may have you felt abandonment or shame, or I can't be trusted, or I am not allowed, right? When we do something and a caregiver says, no, this is not okay, then you learn, okay, I am not allowed to do this. Or if you have lived in scarcity and then you learn that scarcity is what you can expect in life, or you have been treated as unworthy and you learn that you are an unworthy person, unlovable, that you are not enough. Or if you have not felt that you belong to a community, or even in your family, and you feel like an outsider, it is difficult for you to relate to someone, or even if you have felt that I am not safe. As children, all these experiences are very impacting, and if we experience any of these emotions, what can happen is that we don't know very well how to manage them. We don't know very well how to react, and we don't know very well how to keep us safe and how to meet our needs. So, because we all have needs of, being loved and feeling that you can contribute to your community, and feeling that you have power over your life, and that you have someone to turn to. So when there is something in your experience that doesn't meet this, right? It can stay in your mind, in your body, as an unprocessed emotion, right? And then you learn all these things, and this is your baggage, right? This is the baggage that you carry in your mind, in your body, and when you grow up as adults, you live with this baggage. And living with this baggage so living with this baggage is where it is reflected that your shadow will raise, right? So all these painful experiences create your shadow because you have learned all these things about yourself, which are very painful and very powerful as well. And then, let's say they are things that are so painful that we, as children, in order to survive and to make sense of the world, we have to work in some way. And many times what we do is that we repress these emotions and we repress these thoughts, because if we don't, then they are too dangerous for us, right? So we start repressing things and not wanting to see things. And then all this, in psychological terminology, what we're doing is that we are relegating all these emotions and thoughts and all this part of ourselves, we are relegating them to the unconscious. And everything you throw into your unconscious becomes your shadow, right? So all this baggage that you have acquired during your life is creating your shadow. If you learn, you learn who you are through personal experiences, and if who you learn you are is very painful, you push it out of your sight, creating your shadow, and it becomes your dishonored self. It is the part of you that you don't want to see, you don't want to accept, you don't want to be part of yourself. But your shadow craves to be seen, because when we learn these things in ourselves, it creates a separation because we stop accepting things that we think about ourselves, right? So as an adult, having all this baggage, right, of beliefs, I am this, I am that, what you do is you live conditioned by your shadow, creating your karma, right? We live unaware and not seeing that even though we have this false sense of free will, that we live our lives in the way we want to live it, and that we take the actions and the decisions that we think we take freely, the reality is that our shadow is our unconscious is directing our lives. Let's say because since you have relegated things, right? You have pushed away things, and and this has created your shadow, and your shadow needs to be seen. It craves to be seen, right? It is going to take the slightest opportunity to show up in your life. And it does this because it is the way your shadow has to make you aware that it is there. It is the mind's mechanism. It is just a mechanism. We go through our lives having experiences, we have difficulties, we get triggered by some people, we get triggered by specific experiences, and this is just the mechanism of your mind in action, projecting your shadow out to the outside so that you can see it and you can be aware of it, right? So what happens is that then as you live, you are expressing your beliefs into the outside, right? So if as a child you learn that you are unworthy, what you're going to do is express I am unworthy in different aspects in your life, because this is the mind's mechanism to have you seen that that is what you believe about yourself. And so that to give yourself a chance to work on it and to get rid of it, right? So this is why what you believe becomes your reality. And this is very difficult to accept sometimes, because Because what this means is that if you observe your life, right, and you observe what you get in life, and if what you get in life is repeated patterns of I am not enough, right, or I am not lovable, or rejection, it is very difficult to accept that it is you, the one who is creating all those experiences, right? Because especially we are very capable of if we have a difficult situation with someone, always blame someone else, always blame that person. How can this person behave this way? How can this person say the things they say, and so on? And we get entangled in this blaming the other person, right? When you learn these principles and you learn how your shadow work, one of the things that you can be sure is that the experience of being unworthy and of being rejected is something that is created by yourself. And that indicates that what you believe and what you hold in your mind is, I am rejected. What you can expect from life is to be rejected. So you go and express that everywhere in your life, right? And it is very painful, but it is needed because your shadow was created because you had an experience, and some unprocessed emotion got stuck within you, and it needs to be released. And then that is the mechanism. So you can release that emotion. You need to connect with the same kind of emotion, and then you recreate the same kind of emotion. It is, we go about in life, with all these difficulties and all these pains, but really, once you understand this, you realize that it is just our mechanism, right? Our mind's mechanism, our energy mechanism. It is just the way it works. It is not that your fate is to be rejected. It is not that, so many things that we end up thinking about ourselves. And the sooner you realize about this and learn how to navigate your difficult emotions and what to do in order to overcome them, well, the sooner you will get this, everything has meaning, right? So signs that your shadow is raising, because in our shadow, we have pushed away so many things that are painful for us, right? Then when we have a certain situation that triggers our shadow, then we feel it as something, a negative emotion, like triggers. So for instance, you have a coworker and you are in a meeting, your coworker says something and you feel attacked, you feel triggered, right? That is one clear case in which your shadow is being triggered. There is something there for you. And it doesn't mean that your coworker didn't do anything wrong, it doesn't mean that there is nothing in your coworker. So maybe the way your coworker said that is not the most appropriate. And that is your coworker's side on this. But you can be sure that on your side, because you get this surge of negative emotion as a trigger, you can be sure that there is something within you as well that requires your attention, right? Compulsive reactions. When you get triggered, what do? You react compulsively. Maybe you think, this is a clear case of, maybe you think you reacted as you wanted to react. That's what I wanted to do, right? And having this false sense of free will, but the reality is that your compulsive reactions are very, very conditioned by what you hold in mind. So it is not a free reaction. And besides, many times we even regret of having had this compulsive reaction, right? When we get triggered by someone and then we react compulsively and speak back in an unkind way, maybe later on we regret of having spoken in this way. And we even feel guilty and we say, I don't want to behave this way again anymore, and all these kind of thoughts, right? Difficult emotions. When, for instance, you may be watching a film and then something raises that makes you have a surge of a very intense emotion. So you can also see there that when it is so intense, there is also something within you, right? It indicates there is something there that requires your attention. And repeated patterns is also a clear indication of your shadow. And in fact, a repeating pattern is an indication that your shadow is picking up the least opportunity to make you aware that it exists, right? But every time you fail to do the work that is required. So next time your shadow will pick up again the least opportunity to make you aware that it's there. And if time after time after time you fail doing what you need to do and releasing that unstuck energy that you have within yourself, it is going to show up in your life as a repeated pattern. Until the day arrives when you realize and liberate that shadow, right? So the thing is that a triggered shadow elevates the emotional material for doing the shadow work. Without this emotional material being fresh in your mind, in your body, without you connecting with it and feeling it, for me, there is no way to do shadow work. Or if there is a way to do shadow work, it is much less effective. What you're really doing in shadow work is there has been this unprocessed emotion, which is, emotions are energy, which has been stuck in your body since you had that experience, and it has been in waiting energy in your body, waiting for the opportunity to get released. So in order to release that emotion, that energy, you need to embody it. You need to connect with it. You need to let your body live it again. So when we get triggered, when we have a difficult emotion, when we have a difficult circumstance, usually we say, how can I feel better, right? What can I do to avoid all this? But the reality is that you're having an opportunity in front of your eyes, because it allows you to release that stuck energy. Okay, so this moves us to our third topic. What is the shadow work? What the shadow work process looks like. And well, exactly. What do you do when you are in emotional distress? I was just mentioning it, right? You may think, oh no, not this feeling again, right? You start fearing, entering into that entanglement. How can I feel better? What can I do? I feel stupid and even a loser for feeling this bad. Or maybe even you are aware, right, that you have to let that emotion stay, but it's still very difficult. You don't know very well what to do with it. Right? So your emotions are inner guidance that you can use them to liberate your spirit through shadow work. Exactly. When you have the emotion there, then you have the material that you need. Right? So when you have the material there, you get triggered by your coworker, for instance, then instead of engaging in how can I feel better, how can I avoid this, what can I do, right, to feel as I was feeling half an hour ago, what is needed instead is first move towards the emotion, right? It's like I always see it like, imagine you are in the beach, right? And you are in the water and a huge wave comes towards you, right? What do? Do you avoid the wave? So avoiding the wave would be, what can I do to feel better? What can I do to stop feeling this way, right? But with shadow work, what you have to do precisely is move towards the wave and then jump right through it. Let it grow within you. It's maybe in this case of being triggered by a coworker, maybe you felt rejected, right? You felt some kind of rejection. You were not accepted. Maybe you had an idea and your idea was diminished in a harsh way, and then you feel the rejection. So it is to open up that feeling, let it grow within you and see what is there, right? And feel the emotion. You have to feel the emotion, and then you have to transcend it, understand where it comes from, right? So for that, you can ask yourself if when you were a child, you experienced the same kind of emotion, and what circumstance that one was. And then connect with that moment in which that happened when you were a child, right? And maybe that experience taught you that, well, you are not welcome. You are rejected. Maybe you experience that your ideas are not welcome by others, right? And you learned that what you can expect from life is rejection. So transcending it is understand where that emotion comes from. And disentangling from that specific experience that you're having with your coworker. We get trapped into, how could she say that? How could she behave this way? Right? And we get entangled with the person that we have in front of us. But really, the person that we have in front of us, what they did is they gave us the opportunity. They gave us the opportunity to raise this emotional material. They gave us the opportunity to connect with it, and they gave us the opportunity to release it. And if you do the process of shadow work in the correct way, you can feel how if the thing that you get triggered by is rejection, you can feel that before doing the process, you see yourself in a different position, like I am the rejected. I expect others to reject me. And after you have done the shadow work on that specific topic, and you have released that energy, you feel you're in a different position. It's like that belief which you held in your mind, I expect to be rejected, has disappeared. You no longer see yourself that way, right? But you feel free because there is no such thought in your mind anymore. It has gone. So it is, of course, for you that you're not rejected. You're welcome. You're part of this world. Right? So the shadow work process, when done correctly, feels like an emotional elevation because you are connecting with that original emotion, with that emotion that got stuck, that got unprocessed, and that has been in waiting mode all your life until you could reconnect with it and feel it and let it grow within you, right? And just be present and be there for it until it disappears. It's like a slow burn of emotion. You keep feeling the emotion, you keep feeling the emotion until there is no emotion anymore and you feel neutral. Then you think about your coworker and you no longer get triggered. Why? Because your shadow has been integrated in your consciousness. You have made it conscious. So there is no reason anymore for you to get triggered by that same thing, because that thing is not in your shadow anymore. And this doesn't mean that because what you got triggered by was what expecting life is to be rejected, means that you have to accept to be rejected. This is something I've seen in many circles in shadow work, like accepting things that are very painful for us, but accepting them in this way, for instance, that to be rejected, you don't accept. Let's say you don't have in your mind to be rejected. I mean, your starting point in this case is that you were not aware of it, but in your mind, you expected from the world, you expected from others to be rejected. When that has been dissolved, you no longer have that kind of thought. You no longer have that kind of belief. You have liberated yourself. But in order to do that liberation, you have to look right into the eye. That yes, what you expect is to be rejected. That is what you have to accept, right? That even if you're not conscious about it, that is your expectation about yourself. And it is a very painful expectation. But then when you do shadow work, it disappears. You liberate yourself, right? You no longer have that kind of thoughts. You cleared your sight to your true self. You're seeing yourself more clearly and as you are, because holding in your mind what I expect is to be rejected, that is a veil that lays in front of your eyes, which is an obstacle between your consciousness and who you really are. So as a result of shadow work, your emotions are processed, your dishonored self is integrated, your conditioning is dissolved, and your spirit is freed. You have freed yourself. And if you go about this way in life, taking all your difficult situations, difficult experiences as opportunities to liberate yourself from all this conditioning that you have, then you will achieve more freedom. There will be less things you get triggered by. You have compulsive reactions about. You will stay neutral. And then, yes, you will be able to take a decision about what to do in a free way. Your actions are not conditioned anymore by everything that you have liberated yourself from. So one of the things that sabotages shadow work is emotional entanglement. And this is your ego. Emotional entanglement is suffering, causes a lot of suffering. Your ego is attached. So in the case of your coworker, being emotionally entangled is not letting go of that person. You have thoughts like, I don't want to see her again, she's mean, she has bad intentions. Your focus is on that person. You're entangled. Maybe you ruminate about this person. Then you can see that what is happening to you is that you are entangled. And it is very difficult to let go of that entanglement. But it is a practice to do. It is needed. And every time you get entangled with someone or something, it is an opportunity to practice disentangling yourself. So it is needed. It is the practice that you need. And through this practice, you learn to relax your ego. You learn to let go of your ego, right? And also because Eastern spirituality tells you that you're not your body and you're not your mind and you're not your energy either. These are the three bodies that yoga defines of us as human beings within the materialistic realm, but we are not any of these three bodies. We are pure awareness. And there is a mental space beyond all rational thinking that is our pure awareness. And we should be living our lives from the space of pure awareness. And if we don't, then our ego steps in and directs our lives. And then it is when all the suffering is created. So when you you can relax your ego if you drive your life consciously from your space of pure awareness. That is one of the things that is so important about Eastern spirituality. One of the things why shadow work fits in so well within all the spirituality, right? Because spirituality provides you with the correct container, provides you with the correct knowledge about who you are, and about how you should live your life, right? So once you learn to relax your ego and disentangle, what you do is you are able to contemplate your pain from an emotional distance. And this contemplation of your past experience and the pain that it caused you, but without being entangled, without getting entangled, but from an emotional distance, is a must for shadow work. If you are entangled, then you have to wait. You can't do shadow work in that moment. You have to practice disentangling and keeping emotional distance. And well, we are at the end of the presentation. So thank you very much. And I hope that everything that I explained made sense to you and was of interest to you. So I was thinking on doing a small meditation, Shalu, but I don't know if we run out a bit of time for that because it's already 1 hour.
Okay. So if everybody is okay with that, we do, I think it's a 10 minutes meditation. We can do that, and after that we can take questions. I hope everyone is okay with that. You can just give us a thumbs up. Okay.
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 Very good. So thank you. The meditation that I had thought of practicing is precisely to connect with the emotional distance, connecting with feeling compassionate about suffering, but from the emotional distance. Okay, so we can start with breathing in, a deep breath, a few deep breaths. Breathe through the belly, chest and up, and breathe out. Breathe in through the belly, chest up, breathe out. And once more, breathe through the belly, chest up and out. So now I would like you to pick up one circumstance that you can think of that is not part of your life, something that happened to someone else, which caused emotional pain. It can be, if it's something that happened long ago, 200 years ago, that helps to take emotional distance. So for instance, maybe you know of an event that happened a long time ago. It didn't affect your family. It didn't affect yourself. Maybe a natural disaster in which people had it difficult. Maybe there was a village was a flood. You can imagine one such circumstance in which people were living through a difficult time. And you can feel compassionate about them. You can feel their difficulty and the pain of what happened. But notice that you can feel it from a distance. So you don't get entangled in it. So we're going to stay thinking about this and connecting with that emotion for 1 minute. And notice how it feels. You can say things to yourself like, yes, that happened. And it is tough, and it is how life is. Just accepting that these kind of things happen in life. Now, as you connect with that feeling, I would like you to think about something that happened to you or to your family that causes you a lot of pain. Something you have always experienced as difficult to think about. And contemplate that which you experienced with the same emotional distance as before. Maybe it was something that happened when you were a child. You can say to yourself, yes, that happened. You can feel that compassion for yourself or a loved one as they were back then. And keeping the distance, not getting entangled. Just accepting that life is as it is. I would like you to notice if you feel this pain, if you feel the connection with the emotion, like something that heals. How does it feel in your body? Do you feel tense? Or does it rather feel like something healing? If it feels like healing, then you are in the right path. Because that is the kind of emotion that you feel when you're doing shadow work and you are releasing that energy, that emotion that got stuck in your body. Now we're going to end this meditation with a couple of deep breaths. Again, breath through your belly, chest, in and out. Breathe through your belly, chest, in and out. And slowly open your eyes.